Welcome back to another video. I'm Nick from A Load of Old Scrap. I make sculptures from scrap, salvage, recycled and sometimes new metal. Now when I'm making sculptures, there's kind of a few different ways that I go about deciding what I'm doing. I either make things that I want to make that are just rattling around in my head. I make things that I want to make and I think will sell well. Because obviously at the end of the day this is a business for me, so I need to make things that are going to sell. And then the third way is commissions. Now, commissions can be a really interesting one because sometimes it's just things you would never think of. Someone will come to me and ask if I can make something that's so out there, I would just never have thought of doing it. A few years ago I made a saxophone for someone. In the last video I made a guitar, but this saxophone is not something I would have thought of making, but it was so much fun to do. Well, today's commission is a watering can with metal bar coming out of it, so it looks like water coming out of the watering can. So it can be, the watering can is sort of held up with the metal bar. So I've gone ahead and picked up the watering can for it. Now I would have liked to have used a scrap one, but I've been looking around for a couple of months to try and find one from one of the places I normally get my materials from, and I just can't get them that aren't completely rotted out. The customer wants this one powder coated as well, so the fact that it's new is really going to help. I'm not going to have to do loads of cleanup before it goes to powder coat. So it's going to be suspended in the air, something like that, with, it's going to be suspended in the air, something like that, with some different lengths, different sizes of rebar coming out of the end like this. Now the idea is that it's going to come out and sort of go in a bit of a cone shape, as if sort of water would anyway, to hold the watering can up. I'll do some at different lengths to make it a bit more kind of realistic and a bit more pleasing to the eye. Right, so I'm going to start cutting some rebar, get a few pieces in, see what it looks like. You reckon? That's about the right angle? Spot on. Okay, so thinking about it, I want to secure that watering can onto the first piece of rebar. So I'm going to weld some threaded bar onto the end of the rebar there, make a washer, or hopefully find a washer that's the right size. If not, I'll cut something out on the plasma cutter. And then I'll be able to bolt that on and hold it in place, so I don't need to worry about it sliding around and moving. I've made the lock-in washer from just a dropout from the extreme CNC plasma table that I've got. So that'll sit on there nicely like that. Oversized the hole so it would sit on an angle. And the only issue with that is obviously no nuts or anything is going to sit nicely there. So what I'll do is make a spacer with two nuts that are big enough that are just going to slide over the thread. I'm going to weld those two together and then I'm going to cut it on an angle, so that on an angle that way. So that will sit flush, and then when I put the nut on to do it up, it'll sit on that flat surface and everything else will be on the angle and it'll hold it all in really nicely. I'm just going to give that a quick test to see how well that sort of holds it up and locks it all in place. It's pretty solid, it looks good. Let's start working on the rest of the rebar now. Have some pieces come out here, over here, sort of spreading out, some different lengths maybe. It's going to be a bit of an experiment to see what looks good. It's always the nice thing about metal is you can cut it off, weld it on, add bits, grind bits, just adapt it as you go in. That's the main part of the sculpture done. So what I need to do now is work out a way that I can attach another piece of rebar to the bottom of the center piece on that. I'm going to weld 3 nuts together, and then on the other, on about a foot, maybe a foot and a half of rebar, I'll weld some threaded bar so that can be screwed onto the bottom of it. Idea is if it's going on grass, that extra foot can be screwed onto the centerpiece of the rebar on the sculpture, and then that can just be pushed down into the ground, make it a bit more sturdy when it's in the garden. I've got the stake that I've just finished. This is to help secure the whole sculpture down. Basically this one will push down into the ground after being screwed on to this centerpiece of rebar on the water effect that's coming down. So we've got some threaded bar there that screws onto the nuts that I welded on. Just sharpened the end on this end. It's a bit easier for the customers to just push it down into the ground. Next up, I just need to do some clean up on all the welds, tidy everything up a little bit, and pretty much done. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this one. If you have, leave a like and remember to subscribe to the channel to keep up to date with the kind of things that I'm up to. Other than that, have a good day.